I want to take some practical takeaways now for someone who's maybe been hearing about this and they want to start taking action to protect their business or their organization. For someone who's maybe just starting to dip their toes, learning more about alt tech, and want to start monitoring these platforms, where would you suggest that they get started?
Yeah, I think if you look at sort of some foundational knowledge, if you go back to actually TechCrunch is a really good resource for learning about some of these emerging social networks. So that's a I mean it's a great tech centric publication in general. So it's a really good place to start. Also, and sort of I'll tip my cap again to the good folks at Bellingcat. So they have a great Discord server, broadly looking at OSINT, but they have some, sort of far right extremism elements of that, and some left wing extremism in general, actually, subsets of their Discord server, which touches on some of this. And then beyond that, they've got sort of some best practices sections and a little bit of tradecraft, etc. Some tools they've got listed in there. So I think that's some really good foundational knowledge to learn sort of about the subject matter when it comes to the actual emerging tech social or sorry alternative tech social alternative social sites in general or sources, and then also some of the tradecraft around it and best practices. And I think beyond that, and certainly the Bellingcat Discord server will talk to some of these. Good OSINT best practices are always worth following in general. So what I mean by that is, good investigative hygiene. So that is using a laptop that is a safe laptop in the sense that it's not connected to any other corporate networks, and it is a laptop that you can go to some of these sites in a safe kind of fashion. So in the sense that you're not going to download and infect the rest of your corporate network if you click on the wrong link. Equally, sort of having that laptop without any of your usual usernames and passwords, etc. It's a dedicated laptop for OSINT research. That is certainly part of best practices. Some of these sites, and again, I'll come back to Chanboards. Bit of a history of having some very very concerning material posted in there, and as a result of that, if you're just sort of moving around, you could come across some very unpleasant artifacts in those domains. Having the right sort of background knowledge to go and undertake some of these investigations, but also then having the right tools to go and effectively undertake these investigations and research, doing it in a safe manner. So again, sort of a dedicated laptop, not connected to networks. Some people use virtual machines. Some people, use secure browsing tools like Authenticate's Solo browser. Another prime example of doing that in a secure domain is a tool that's built for really OSINT research in the cyber domain and generally in the online space. So lots of tools out there that you can use. I think it's making sure before you do anything, just making sure your ducks are in a row as far as baseline knowledge. What am I going to search for? What do I want to go and research? And how to do it safely and effectively.
Really good resources here. I'll be sure to include all the links to all of them in the show notes for this episode, so everyone can check them out if they want to. In terms of, you've mentioned a lot of great, interesting platforms throughout the course of this episode. Are there any in particular that are on your radar screen, new emerging platforms that you see growing that analysts should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting one of that, and actually, I mean, as a result of the unfortunate events yesterday, 2 days ago, so OK.ru is certainly prominent, but that's another one of those examples that's actually been around for a while. We have a collection of it in our platform. But Blue Sky is an interesting one. So you've got sort of, Jack Dorsey starting to recreate a Twitter competitor. And it's always interesting with these with these emerging social channels, in the sense that, especially from an OSINT perspective, there is an element of sort of getting in there early to see what's there, but also, um, you know, making sure they're sort of reaching critical mass to a certain extent to start to get more value. I know we touched on, that there is value in even some of these smaller sites, but if you're going to spend sort of time and effort doing research in these locations, yeah, things like blue sky is still emerging. So, at what point does it start to really have some deep value to it? So there is a bit of a tipping point for some of these, and then Jack Dorsey, for the most part, knows what he's doing. So you would expect that to potentially persist, but if you go back to the Parler example 3 years later, and it's off the map. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that one goes next.
Yeah, well, like you've mentioned, it's an emerging ecosystem and things are changing all the time, right? One day,
Absolutely.
this like you mentioned, Parler, it's surging, everyone's joining it. The next day, it's booted off all the app stores, it's
Yeah.
gone, and that's been the whole history since I've joined LifeWrap. It's like, oh, there was this platform we were talking about 2 years ago that was everyone was going to. Now it's in the dustbin of the internet history, right? So it's just constantly changing. And yeah, like just like you said, keeping an eye on a platform might not be relevant today, but a couple months from now, that exponential growth curve kicks in.
Yeah.
Now you got to be aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in those those early stages, it's always worth keeping tabs on, worth keeping an eye on to see where it might go and what sort of content might be there.